Hello everyone and welcome to a new video. MC-Mura here. In today's video we're gonna be talking all about Jacko and how you can use her in Guilty Gear Strive. Gonna be covering the neutral, setups, combos, pressure and all of that good stuff. So let us get started. Jacko is a puppet character. She can summon her 3 minions at the same time on screen. So the maximum number of minions that you can get is 3. And once these guys are out, they can do a ton of things. You can interact with them with your normals, for example, and each different normal will launch them in a different trajectory. They are kind of considered to be like fireballs. So for example, the 2H here is a really interesting one. 6H is also pretty cool as well. And you have like 6P which like will launch them right ahead, right? That's pretty cool. And you can force them with specific commands, like force them to attack the opponent, force them to block, force them to come back to you, or force them to explode, right? And to make the minion take an action or to summon a minion, you need at least one segment of the bar at the bottom. Notice that there is a bar above the attention gauge that has 3 segments. Each time you summon a minion, you will find that there is a fluorescent section and a gray section, right? So here if we have multiple of them, notice the gray and the fluorescent section. If I summon them backwards, I get the gray section instantly. Think of it as like recoverable health, right? Once I do that, I recover them instantly. And if I make them do any special move like slashing or attacking or parrying or whatever, I need at least one part of that gauge, right? Now, unfortunately, these minions have an issue. And that is if they happen to get hit, they will disappear, right? So if the Jacko here, the AI tried to kick them, they will disappear. If our Jacko or if my Jacko actually got hit or even got to block something, the minion will disappear. This makes it difficult to have the minions on screen, right? However, there is something that you have to remember, and that is that the minion can parry. So if you think that your opponent is gonna attack, you can force them to parry. Maybe then you can go for like a cheeky grab, or can go for whatever action you want to do next. Actually, putting the minions out there and making them parry the opponent attack, this is actually quite the powerful strategy from my experience, especially considering that this can be combined with other actions, like you can put them out there, kick them and then force the parry if the opponent try to take back their turn. That is pretty cool. Now another way that you can sustain your minions are by using her supers. She have 2 different versions of them. This is the slash version. This will make it so that they have they pretty much don't disappear if you get hit or if they get hit, right? Even here they will not go away. The heavy slash version will make the bar like regenerate super quickly, right? So it's like even no matter how many turns you're gonna be using, notice how quickly you get to attack, right? That's actually really impressive. Now one of the best things about Jacko is that if you happen to use your 5H, your 6H or 2H and then cancel into that super, you're gonna be +3 on block. So you actually get to run some pressure. So if I have my minion behind her, right, I go for this, I actually get the counter hit and as you notice, I get to pressure, right? So that is actually pretty fantastic. Now she have to deal with an armored minion that she can get rid of. Very powerful stuff. This is one of the strategies that I would highly recommend you start using. Simply put a minion behind them, use one of your heavies, activate, and now you get to pressure. Really nice strategy. Now let's talk about her knockdowns, because Jacko is also a set play monster. Once you actually put the opponent in a knockdown state, she can go for so many different mix-ups. Like let's say you got something like this, then you can get like a setup like that, deal a ton of damage output in the process, right? This was a knockdown from 2D. You go for a grab even mid-screen. You can go for sequences like that for a ton of damage output. The mix-up potential is crazy, especially also when you put them to the corner, right? And then you can keep like putting minions, keep looping your pressure, keep making it harder and harder for them to follow up. It is crazy, right? And one of the things that makes her really work as well is her other super, which is the command grab, right? This is your only invincible option, and it is easy to combo into and does a ton of damage. Here, for example, is a slash to far slash, and notice this did crazy amount of damage. Even if you did like close slash into 2D, you can still combo into it. If you're near the wall, this is actually gonna wall break as well, and you will deal a ton of damage from very simple combos. So the pressure is very powerful, the Oki is very powerful, and the damage with this particular super is very powerful. Now, unlike Ino's, this command grab can be jumped after the flash, right? So if Jacko is doing it, let's here have her like do the super. If I hold upwards, I get to jump, right? However, there is a very important exception that you need to know. If you are faultless defending, you don't get to jump. So if she's doing it and I'm faultless defending here, even if I'm holding upward and trying to jump, I don't get to, right? This is really nice because many players will like default to faultless defense once you are putting them in a situation like that because they just wanna get out, and then gotcha, you go for the grab and you get to deal massive damage. So these are some really good strategies. Now, unfortunately for Jacko, there is still a couple of issues with the character. Obviously, the biggest one is her lack of a reversal option. She doesn't have a TP, and the super, while it is invincible on startup and it does really good damage, the range on it is very short. It will not hit like airborne opponents. So for example, if Chip is doing his 6k, you will not be able to hit him with your super. So that is pretty unfortunate. And obviously her fastest normal is a 5 frame, like 5p, which whiffs on crouching opponent. So if here's the opponent Jacko is crouching, this whiffs on her. So your fastest normal doesn't work on crouching, and the 2p is 6 frames, so that is not terribly fast. So the defense is a little bit weak. The offense will require a little, or the neutral will require a little bit of hard reads, but the offense is very powerful, leaves a ton of room for creativity, and can be very rewarding when you get the right reads. So as we always do, we will start talking about the character attacks. I'm first gonna start with her normals. 5p is your fastest normal. This comes out as 5 frames. So at 5 frames it is decently fast. It will Gatling into 6p, which is not bad, and obviously 6h as well. Now the issue here is that this attack will whiff on crouching opponents. So if they are crouching, it will whiff over them. This means that it is difficult to use it as a get off me defensive interruption check kind of tool, because if your opponent is pressuring with 2Ks, with 2Ss, 2H, whatever, you will get hit, right? This is problematic, but the attack is decent as a panic anti-air. Like if Kai is doing something like his flip kick, obviously you can check it with the jab, and like we showed, it will Gatling into 6p and it will Gatling into 6h, and you get to put your minion after that, so it's not too bad as that kind of sort of application. And one of the interesting things about it, and one of the things you will be seeing a lot in this guide, is how the attack interact with the minion. If you happen to 5p a minion, it will be launched around like half screen range towards the opponent, right? This is not bad if you were already like holding a minion, you saw that Kai is trying to approach you, completely quickly drop it and just 5p the minion towards him. It's like one of the fastest way of actually launching the minion towards the opponent. Next up we will talk about her 6p or 2p. 2p is a 6 frame normal, so it's like it is the second fastest attack, but unfortunately 6 frames for a 2p isn't that fast. But it does hit crouching opponents, so it is better as an interruption tool, right? It Gatlings also into 6h and the 6p. 6h you need to be kinda close though to get the first hit. If you're from a far range, this can happen, which is problematic. But 6p is a little bit more consistent, right? And obviously because it moves them far away, you get to set up your stuff. So that is not terribly bad. Now, one of these things here is that if the minion is out and you press 2B, Jacko will pick up the minion. So to get the attack itself out, you either wanna press down backwards and down forward, or 1P or 3P to actually get the attack itself out, right? Because if you press just standard 2P, she will pick him up, so it's not terribly useful as a way to manipulate the minion spacing, but you need to know how to get it out if you have the minion on the ground, right? Next up, let's talk about her 6P, and this is the standard universal anti-air. Good thing here is that it will send them flying full away, then obviously you get to set up a minion. Not that rewarding on an anti-air, unfortunately. It's hard to follow after it, hard to get like this kick. It will whiff more often than not, and this makes the damage on an anti-air not that high, but you know, you get at least you get some breathing room, right? It's like it is better for these sort of applications. Now, one of the things that are really interesting about it, and like I'm saying, this is gonna be such a big part of Jaco's neutral, knowing how to manipulate the minions, right? If you're holding a minion and you hit him with a 6P, he will be launched straight at the opponent, right? This is the typical minion throw. It have like an upward arc to it, which might whiff on shorter or grounded opponents, but the 6P launches really fast and at an aggressively low angle, so this will not whiff on low character or like short characters or whatever. So if you wanna, for example, if you wanna fireball that will hit like at the standard level, dropping the minion and then hitting them with 6P is the best way to go about it, right? Obviously this one is a little bit faster, but it has the arc, so it is good to know your options, right? Because obviously, like I said, some character can duck under that if they are running, maybe they will go under it. You know what I mean. Next up, let's talk about her 5K or kicks in general, starting first with the 5K. It's fantastic. This is one of her key attacks. Obviously have a lot of range, it's 7 frame startup, so the startup for its range is actually pretty nice. Obviously can be jump cancelled like every other 5K in the game. And one of the really good things about it is that it will gatling into 2D from whenever range or wherever, however it connects, right? This is a very consistent combo and obviously gets you a fantastic Oki, as we will see later, so that is great. Now, one of the really cool things about this attack is how it interacts with the minions. Like if you happen to kick a minion, right, it will go around like half screen range towards the opponent. Now, the good thing here is that the 5K is jump cancelable, right? So you might drop the minion, 5K them, then instant air dash, right? And if you happen to get this right, just like I did, you got a 3-hit combo. So this was an actual combo, right? And obviously you can get some massive rewards here. If you happen to get the minion to attack, you are getting really good damage. This is one of her best approach option. So if you want to approach the opponent in the neutral, this is a really good option, as you can see. Also, this is a fantastic setup out of throw. Even mid-screen, this will lead to really high damage, as you just see. So throwing the opponent, dropping the minion, 5K instant jump like that, I really like this setup. You have to get used to holding the minion, dropping them with dust, and then kicking them. Like you want to do this as one fluid motion, but once you do, you will find that this sequence is one of her best tools in the neutral, at least from my experience, because you are actively attacking the opponent via air dash while also covering your approach with the minion, and the minion hit first, so you have to keep that in mind. Obviously, you don't even have to like do that yourself. You might shoot the minion and then go for your jumping dust, which is like a fireball, or like shoot the minion and then back air dash. You can feint in all sorts of ways with it, so it's a fantastic approach tool in my opinion. Next one is gonna be the 2K, and 2K this is pretty much a, it's a footsies attack because it have a lot of range. It's a low attack, so that's really good actually. That's really good range for a low. Combos into 2 dust, again, very consistent combo, leads to great Oki, give you a really good knockdown here. You get to follow up with some really good follow-ups in this instant. And it does have a lot of good range for it. Now, it will not be interacting a lot with the minion. Like if the minion is out there, he's pretty much above it, but if you are dropping the minion, like you can kind of push him slightly with it. Not terribly useful, but it is something that's there. One of the really cool things about this is that if you happen to throw your opponent in the corner, it will auto-G. So you can go for stuff like throw, and then auto-Ging with it, and then putting out a minion, and then using that to like approach your opponent again. That's actually really powerful. In the corner, it can be a really quite the oppressive tool, right? Because you can keep looping it into dust and then going for the minion attack, etc, 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 to keep pressuring the opponent. So it is a really powerful attack. Next up, let's talk about the slashes. The first one is gonna be the far slash. I'm gonna call this the sweet chin music, and this have a ton of range. As you see, it's really good for a far slash actually. It will obviously gatling into the 5H, but you need to be somewhat close to get the full hits here. From a far distance, they might whiff. It will gatling into 2H as well, and this was one of her best damage opportunities for the most part. It have a ton of range. It's a really good attack as like a poke or a keep out tool. Obviously special cancelable, you can cancel it into the summoned minion and then like immediately force him to block if the opponent try to take back his turn. Maybe you can summon the minion and then run away and then throw it like that and use that again to kind of like start to approach your opponent again. So it is really great. It's one of her best neutral tools. It does have some recovery on whiff, but it's not too bad to the point where it kind of hurt it. I do think it's one of her best tools all around, to be honest. It doesn't interact that specially with the minion. It will launch them at the opponent, and like it can be like an extended poke because like you can kick them from a decently far range, right? So that's not too bad to use as something like that. But more than likely you're not gonna be using it that way, right? But it is there, right? Because you can like kick them from this far distance as the opponent and then make them attack them, etc, etc, etc. So it is good to know that this is a follow-up, but I do like the 6P more personally. Like if I'm wanting to use the minion as a projectile, I do like 6P, I prefer it the most. Next up we will talk about the close slash. And close slash, this is pretty much the combo attack. It have a lot of gatling options. I will be leaving a combo section at the end. But this is like the very standard frame trap with gatlings or combo tool. It will gatling into far slash and then you get the 2H and you can get a lot of damaging combos with that. So there you go. This is kind of like a difficult combo. There are harder variants as well, but you get the idea. It can lead to a lot of damage. Now one of the things about the close slash is that it is hard to get this to interact with the minion outside of a very specific situation. Obviously it's a proximity normal, so if you're doing it and you're far from Kai, you will be getting the like the far slash. But in the corner, once you knock down your opponent with 2D, you can summon a minion, right? And in this instant, the close slash will OTG, right? And obviously the minion will hit them as well and you will get a 4-hit combo. What you wanna do then is cancel that into the minion attack. So it should look something like that. You get the 7-hit combo. You can then do another one or do a kick and keep following up on this, right? Like this is like an interesting loop that you can do, but obviously this will consume your gauge relatively quickly. So it does have a really specific use. Again, we'll be leaving a combo section at the end, but it is important to know how you get to manipulate the minion with it in the corner. It's an important combo. Next up, let's talk about the 2S. 2S is her anti-air. Obviously she have 6P as well, but 6P is more for like forward jumping attacks, while the 2S is more for like jumping attacks that are above you. It is really good actually. You do get some really good follow-ups here. Obviously you can cancel it into like the minion toss, and like you see, that's actually really great. Meter is damage from a counter hit. The hitbox on it as an anti-air is very good, right? Damage, good damage, good potential. It's a really strong and solid anti-air. It will be difficult to use it grounded because the range on it isn't great. As you see, even if she is like almost touching Kai, it's not hitting, so it's hard to use in frame traps and pressure and combo sequences. It is usable in some combos, but it's not that great. One of the things that I like about it a lot though is how it interacts with the minion. One of the things here is that this will kick the minion in an upward trajectory. This is kind of like the Dulcim Fireball in Street Fighter V. And especially if you happen to like hold the minion, drop them, and then 2S it, it will go in a really good arc. Like this parabolic arc is really good as a wall to stop the opponent approach, right? This is very powerful against stuff like Maze Dolphin, against opponents who are trying to air dash, against all that sort of stuff. This angle and this arc is really good. One of the best arc to use defensively in my opinion. One of the best defensive maneuvers when it comes to the minion. Obviously can be used for approach as well, right? Like you can set up the minion like that and use that for your approach, but you get the idea. Next up, let's talk about her slashes, the heavy slashes. Obviously the heavy slash will hit twice, the second hit will knock down. Heavy slashes are important for Jaco for multiple reasons. First one is obviously this will get links from her far slash, which we said is one of her best neutral tools, right? But one of the things that I said previously that is really important here is that if the opponent happen to block her far slashes, these are actually plus on block if you cancel into the super, right? Into the buff super. So if you ever have a minion out there doing them and then doing the buff super is actually a really good idea because you get to hit your opponent, as you can see, and then you get to loop them as we showed in the overview. So it is important to use them. Also, they are pretty rewarded on a counter hit, like obviously like many other characters with the delayed gatlings you can get counter hit here, right? And this can lead to some decent damage. Obviously from a range like that it can be difficult, but if you happen to get the grounded counter hits, let's put the counter on a grounded counter hit, you can get some follow-ups like this and get some really good damage. Honestly, like for meterless damage output, that was actually pretty nice, right? So it is a good attack overall. And next up we will talk about her 2H, and 2H is your mostly damaging combo route. Or before I get into the 2H, let's first discuss the minion interaction with the 5H. Pretty much it kicks him towards it. It kind of serves the same purpose as the 6P. Like it kind of serves the same kind of like angle or trajectory. But like I said, I personally like the 6P the most. I feel like it is the fastest or travels the fastest. But you can still like use this to simply direct it in a straight line towards the opponent, right? Next up, let's talk about the 2H. And 2H is gonna be one of your main combo routes. It leads to a ton of damage, ton of setups, ton of stuff that you can get here. From the right spacing, you can get stuff like that with it, which will lead to massive damage. Again, we'll be leaving a combo section at the end, but know that comboing into 2H is pretty much like your best case scenario, right? And this attack is also really fantastic as a block string as well, because if the opponent is blocking, and let's say, I don't want him to fall for this defense, let's just have a regular defense. So it's like if he's doing, it will like frame trap from the close slash like that, and you get massive follow-ups here. Obviously can lead to a ton of combos. Like I said with the previous one as well, if the opponent is not trying to take back his turn, and you have a minion behind him, right? This is plus on block, so you get to like pressure your opponent with that, right? So that will be actually really good for pressure sequences as well. Now, one of the really cool things about the 2H is how it interacts with the minions, right? Because it interacts with the minions in really good ways. When you put a minion out and then you 2H them, he will bounce back like that. Now, the 2S kind of goes more upwards and in a more defensive angle, while the 2H goes in a lot more aggressive angle, right? It is really good as an approach option. So it's like if you're here, you do the guy like that and then use that to cover your approach. Now, one of the things that is kind of annoying is that if you're holding the minion and then drop them and immediately the 2H, it will not connect, right? She will move forward, he will drop behind her, so you don't really get to do that. But if the guy is already on the floor, 2Hing them is actually really good, right? That's actually really nice. Next up, we will talk about the 6H. This attack is really good at like sniping attacks like air dashes and just aerial approach in general. Gonna be used a lot in combos as well, gonna be used a lot in some of the setups. It gatlings from most of her attacks and can lead to really good damage. And I also really like the angle on it, right? It will also like launch the minion on this upwards angle, so it is quite the aggressive angle as well, right? So, you know, mostly gonna be used in the neutral for checking aerial approach, but it's also useful in combos and in some of the set play. So let's now talk about Jacko's dust attacks. Obviously, we'll start first with the standing dust. This is the universal overhead. Like every character have one of these, even though it doesn't look like it. It is actually an overhead, and unfortunately, or I mean, I guess it is what it is. Jacko can't really like dust and then command the minions to do anything, so you don't get overhead into combos like Zato does. But I guess that's fair, honestly, considering like what you can put on the screen, which can be a little bit ridiculous. Now, one of the really cool things about it is that if you happen to get a 2D knockdown in the corner, you can then use the dust overhead, and it will do like it will pop the minion into this like delayed meaty kind of thing. In a way, it kind of reminds me of Cody's V-Trigger 2 in Street Fighter 5, where you leave the rock and it will hit them as a meaty. So this is interesting, and obviously you get to follow up here if this happens to land. But you have to know that you are leaving damage, right? Like you can go for the close slash combos and just go for that instead of just going for the setup, right? So you're leaving damage to go for the setup, but it is interesting, and I do think it's important to mix things up and go for new mix-ups when you can, if the damage might not kill, right? And when you have the minion out, the dust will launch them in like this upwards arc, kind of similar to the 2H. It kind of follows a similar trajectory, which is pretty interesting, although I do like the 2H one a little bit more, right? Especially since the attack itself is a little bit active, but you know, this is basically the idea. Now let's talk about the 2D, because this is the star of the show. This is potentially one of the best normals and one of the best moves in the game, in all honesty. As you see, the range on it is kind of ridiculous, and it leads to a fantastic knockdown. You are getting a setup here, right? So that is pretty great. It will gatling from her 5k regardless of the range. Notice a fantastic setup from something this far, and 2k obviously as well, and the close slash, so the gatling options are good. Now, this attack, like I said, you will be doing a lot of 5k into 2D. Obviously, you wanna hit confirm this or like on a whiff punish, but sometimes you will do it and the opponent would have blocked, right? This attack is really punishable on block. I do think it's like minus 12 on block. So you will get punished. If you do it like that, you will get punished. Even if you try to set up a minion, you will get punished that way, right? However, one really interesting thing you can do is cancel into the kick. And if you cancel into the soccer kick, this will actually frame trap your opponent if they try to interrupt you, right? Now, the kick itself is obviously unsafe, but you can do it and then cancel into the summoning minion, and this make it relatively safer, right? So this means that if your opponent is just waiting for you and trying to wait for something that is unsafe, you can get something like that and make it relatively safe, relatively speaking, obviously. I will try to like backdash or like back run after doing the summoning minion just to make myself safer, but know that this is like an option that you can do to make the 2D relatively safe-ish on block. Obviously you can still get punished, but this is like your best case scenario, right? Or the most you can do, aside from obviously like going for an RC or whatever to make yourself safe. And obviously if you happen to land the hit, it's very rewarding because like you can go for a mix-up like that one, and this will lead to a ton of damage. This is one of my favorite mix-ups, to be honest. You can just let the minion go and go low, so that's an interesting mix-up. You can drop a minion, air dash, and then make him attack as you are upwards. Obviously this is multi-layered as well because there's multiples that you can do. I will be leaving a frame trap and OK section at the end. I will be leaving an OK section at the end so you get an idea of some of the knockdowns that you can do. But this is very lucrative. At least this one, I do think you need to learn. You have to learn at least a couple of knockdown setups out of this knockdown because it's very important, right? So let's talk about Jack's aerial normals. I'm gonna start first with the jumping punch, and I do like this one a lot. The angle on it is kinda aggressive, and because of this it's good to use as jumping attack. Obviously have a little pushback and will leave you in throw range, so you can immediately throw your opponent after. This is pretty powerful, and because of the angle it makes it really good to use after a super in the corner, right? Like after you land the super here, obviously you will get the wall break and you will get the hard knockdown, so it's good to instant air dash into it and then immediately go for the throw. I have been finding this to be really good. Now if the opponent is jumping, this is also one of your best areas to aerial interruption tools. It's the fastest attack to get out, and it is good as an air-to-air, very much. It's one of her better options. Next up, let's talk about the jumping kick. Obviously, before I get to the jumping kick, this will interact with the minion as well. When you are jumping, you can throw the minion, and they will go again in an upward trajectory. While if you use the jumping punch, it will go into a more horizontal and downward trajectory, which is good if the opponent is below you, right? So it's like if your opponent is in really far distance, maybe this is better, but if you are in a closer range, this is not bad, right? Let's talk about the jumping kick, and jumping kick is weird. This hits more above Jack than it does below her, right? So it's really hard to use as a grounded jumping attack, right? Like it's hard to use it to hit grounded opponents. It's very easy for it to whiff against a grounded opponent. As you see, I've been trying to land it all the time, but it is difficult. Will only land when you are at a very low height, which might be interesting in some cases, but for the most part it makes it difficult to use. Obviously it is jump cancelable, and it is like air dash cancelable like most of the other jumping kicks, so that is decent. If you happen to use the minion with it, he kinda goes in a more of a horizontal trajectory than the jumping punch, so that's not bad. But these two are not ones you will be using a lot. I will be showing you later which one is the real deal. And speaking of the real deal, jumping S. This is probably her best jumping attack if you are in the front, right? Because this have a lot of follow-ups. First of all, you can obviously do it and that special cancel into the servant kick, and this will be a 2-hit. So this is like a really quick 2-hit. You can use it and then combo after on the ground like you normally would. Right, so that kind of stuff works. Right, and here you will get obviously like setups and all of that. Obviously works really well with the the servant setups as well. Because like you can get like a 2D mix-up like that and get the setup going. So it is one of the better attacks if you are jumping from the front, right? And one of the really best thing about this is its interaction with the minion. This is where it really shines in my opinion. When you do the jumping S to the minion, it will bounce on the ground and then hit the opponent again, right? So it's gonna do this trajectory. And this one is really good because after you do it, obviously the jump S is air dash cancelable, right? So you can hit the minion and then air dash. And as you see, this can create some really ambiguous mix-up. It's kind of like the kick, where I told you like you can kick and then air dash. This is pretty much the same equivalent. You are like jumping S and then like drop the minion, jumping S and then air dash, and this will allow you to approach the opponent. This is very good in OK situations after say the like 5H knockdown. Here obviously this is the perfect distance, right? So you get the 5H, right? And you go for a setup like that. This is a very good setup from my experience, and this approach angle in general is really good. right? So this is the best option if you are jumping with the minion. Jump into S and then air dash is a fantastic approach option. Now the good things that you have to remember here is that to do this, you have to let go of the minion as you are going upwards. If you are in the peak of your jump or if you are falling, the jumping S will not land, right? It will be difficult to land. So as Jack is rising, as you are at the start of the jump, that is when you wanna let go of the minion, kick it with the slash, and then dash, right? So it goes like that. Next up, we will talk about the jumping heavy, and this jumping heavy, obviously, it's kind of ridiculous. The hitbox on it is great. Obviously works wonder with the minion as well because you get the special cancel into combos, and it's a really good cross up. It's good as an attack from the front, although I do think jumping S is the better attack if you are intending to hit it from the front. Jumping S can hit cross up as well, as you can see, although it is kind of finicky as a cross up. Jumping H is a beast though, right? And it's very easy to combo after it as well, right? Have a lot of hit stun, so it's very easy to combo after it. Jacko actually have a really sick jumping game in all honesty, and like the other one, obviously you can like hit the minion with it, and this one is the better, like it's the better alternative from jumping punch and jumping kick because he does fall at a decently fast speed, right? So if the opponent is truly below you or like at a distance and you wanna hit them, like this is the way to go, right? Because it's kind of fast, and like you can use this to like shake them from really far distances. What's left is obviously the jump dust, and her jump dust is kind of like a stun dipper. She will always like kind of bounce backwards a little bit after it, and it does have some sizable recovery, so like you can get punished if you're not careful, but this is a fireball, right? Obviously you can, like if you want, you can like RC here and go for some pressure if you want, right? So that is an option, although I've been finding it difficult to find like a situation where this is worth it, to be honest. I do think there are better RC options for Jacko, but overall it is still a big part of your neutral, right? Something that you'll be doing a lot just to limit your opponent approach options, especially when you cover it with the jumping H, which have like gigantic hitbox. So these two are like, no, you're not getting aim kind of tools, right? So let's now talk about Jacko's special moves, and I'm first gonna start with her servant kick. This is the only move she has that doesn't require you to use any of the servant gauge, and it's a really good attack. It will combo easily for most of her normals. Very easy to combo into anything into 2D and then you use it. Anything into 2H, 5H, far slash. There are so many opportunities to land the thing. What makes it really special is that after you get it to land, you can cancel into the minion summon, right? Now obviously this have its uses in combos, because when this hits near the wall, it wall bounces. Obviously this is gonna be used in some combos, because from some distances like you get to like combos toss here, or maybe even combo the like the actual kick and then do the toss. So there are some follow-ups here. We'll be showing a combo section at the end. So the combo routes are interesting, but also it allows her to keep up the pressure. So it's like, for example, here you can kick and then throw the guy immediately at her, or let's say that you happen to land this, right, and then now the guy is behind her. Maybe you get the kick and thrown away, right? Go for the jump S and then use that to cover your approach. So you can use it to sustain your momentum, is what I'm saying, right? Even if you happen to land this, throw that guy and then keep the pressure going. That is a really solid strategy, especially given what you can do next and what we're gonna cover in the rest of this section. So this is the strength of it on hit. One of the other things that is really good is that even without like summon servant special, it can be cancelled into the other servant actions. So if the servant here is already out, you can like kick and then cancel into the servant attack, and you will like bing bong the enemy between you two. This works even on block and will turn this unsafe attack into an attack that is plus on block, right? So we went from being unsafe to actually being plus on block if we have the servant out and we cancelled into the servant attack. That is really interesting. Obviously you can kick the servant himself and he will like fly straight through the opponent. That's actually really nice. We can do some cool gimmicks and mix-ups with that, but we will get to that later. And one of the really important thing, and I kind of mentioned it already, but you want to combo into 2D, right? This is the ultimate goal because it sets you for Oki. We said that the 2D itself is unsafe. Obviously your opponent can interrupt, and if you happen to cancel into the servant kick, this is a frame trap, but this attack by itself is punishable, right? So you can cancel into the servant summon. The thing here is that if your opponent punishes you or with something quick, they can actually punish this, right? So if you're just doing the kick to the summon, this is unsafe. However, if you do the summon to the hold, so it's like we're doing the kick to the hold summon, this is actually plus on block. So this is actually plus on block, so totally safe. So if you messed up and did the servant kick, cancel into the summon version, run away, and you are plus. This is your best way and best option of making this attack plus on block. So that's actually really nice. Now let's talk about summoning the minions and the first actions that you can do, and that is getting them to attack the opponent. This is obviously the key way that you get to follow up in combos and you get to use in pressure and everything, and it's obviously the core of Jacko, right? You can manipulate their positioning with many of her normals and many of her other tools, but this is how you order them directly to attack. Obviously this will turn many of your hits into much bigger damage. For example, typically this knockdown, you're getting like 60 damage. If I have a minion here, right, even without nowhere near an optimal combo, I got an 89, right? Obviously here by having him, I can do a lot of mix-up. Let's say that we got a knockdown like that. One of these mix-ups I like to do is to jump here, like cancel into the summon hold and jump. And then I'm gonna drop the minion behind him and backdash into jump S, right? This mix-up is really cool because obviously here you can do this, get the minion to attack again, so you retain plus frames and then you keep it going. So it's a really powerful mix-up. If you happen to get it to land, you can deal a ton of damage. So let me show you like the damage output here. Right, and you can keep the combo going. Right, so that did actually a lot of damage, right? So it's a really good way to follow up. And even if you don't want to do something that elaborate or that fancy, just summon the guy, air dash, and order him to attack. And depending on your timing, this might cross up or not, and you still get some really easy follow-ups into a lot of damage after a throw, right? Put him and then air dash forward into heavy, right? Cancel into him, and again getting big damage combos and big damage follow-up. There are so many ways. What you have to realize is that the minion is completely separate from Jacko. Even if she's like full away over here, this guy can still attack or do whatever he wants, right? So this even can allow you to like contest in the neutral, right? Even if you throw him at her, he can then immediately cancel into it. Even if we did like something like I said, like this is like a really quick fireball, you get a conversion. You soccer kicked him, then you get a conversion. It allows you to have a really powerful, pretty much you have a powerful disjointed hitbox that you can attack with from any distance, right? And that is amazingly powerful, right? And obviously in pressure, it turns many of the negative frames into plus frames, keep your turn going, and it's honestly a ridiculously strong special attack in general, right? Now next up, let's talk about the one that I do think is overrated, or underrated even, I meant to say underrated, and that is the shield. The shield is actually fantastic, because if the opponent tries to hit the shield in any way, they get guard crushed, and you can use this to your advantage. Like we said, maybe May here will try to she will block something and try to take back her turn. So I'm gonna throw the minion, I'm expecting her to try to take back her turn, so I'm gonna make the minion parry. Never have her block with like a static slash or something. Right? And he gets to parry her attack. And this means that she gets guard broken. Obviously then like you can run up for pressure or do whatever you want. Let's say that Mei players are doing what they love to do the most in the world, Tatsugaki, right? If you have a minion out, she can't Tatsugaki, right? They will block her approach, right? So that's actually great. Obviously this will require one gauge, but you see the application is almost limitless, right? Let's say for example that I did something that is massively unsafe, like the 2D. If I have a minion out, obviously I can go for the minion slash and extend my turn. But if I want to go for like a big play, I can go for the parry or the shield, right? So let's here set this guy up, then go for the shield, right? And obviously I get the guard crush. Now the really interesting thing here is that if you happen to get the guard crush, you can command grab super your opponent. So if the guy is out here, right, this pretty much is a free super, right? So if your opponent likes to swing back a lot, if your opponent likes to wake up with a DP, if they like to contest the space, whatever they want to do, you can obviously like get the minion to parry their attack, right? This is a vital part of Jacko's gameplay, and once you realize that you can do this and the minions are not dead fish once they're out, it's gonna make your effectiveness with them that much stronger. The next one is obviously gonna be the explosion, right? And the explosion is pretty much as it shows. It will last like you will have a countdown 3, 2, 1 and then they will explode. The idea here is that you can use this to combo off of a stroke. So for example, if we have the explosion out, right, it will allow me to like get a mini combo out of that. Obviously then you can get some follow-ups. I have honestly have not come up with any like really practical follow-ups to it, because most of it depends on the opponent not actually blocking or like refusing to block. Obviously the idea is that the explosion itself, it is still blockable, so at best you get a run up into the into pressure, right? The idea here is that Jacko herself can get hit as well. So if it was unblockable, it might have been a little bit better, but as you've seen, even if you manage to get the explosion, it's still the frame advantage can be kind of finicky. So it's gonna be like a really set play heavy kind of utility tool. Have not personally found something super useful for it yet, but I am still looking forward to something when it comes to the explosion, right? One of the interesting things about it as well is that if you happen to wall splat the opponent, they don't wall break. So like if the explosion is out, they don't wall break, so that's interesting. And finally, obviously we have the ability to like put these guys down. That is done with the dust. This is really good if you just want to cancel into normal to change their trajectory, right? That is pretty fine. And like I said, you can do stuff like that, force the guy to like bury or guard, and then you get some pressure here. Obviously, you always have the option to do 6 or any forward, 6 HPS, whatever you want, and that will throw the minion in an upward arc. Knowing when to attack, knowing when to make them block, and knowing how to pretty much have the tempo where you can keep attacking, go for block strings where you're always almost having the minion gauge to keep the minion attacking, setting the guy behind you and Mei so that your turn is never ending, kinda like that. That's how you succeed with Jacko. See, before I leave you with combos and setups, I just wanted to briefly talk about her overdrives or supers. Obviously the first one is gonna be the one that you're gonna be using in combos and as a wake up reversal, and that is the command grab super, done by doing a half circle backward and then forward and punch. Very easily to combo into if you got a 2D or any other hit really. It is a pretty easy super to combo into, and this confirm is really easy. and it will do a lot of damage. Like even if you got something as simple as like far slash or cross slash into far slash and that comboed into it, the damage output will be really high. So that's pretty good, right? It's pretty good for how much damage it does, and obviously near the wall you get the wall break. One of the really cool things is that if you happen to get the opponent guard crushed, this is pretty much by parrying an attack, right? Here pretty much you get a free super, right? So if you happen to get this is a free super and they can't escape this one, so that is fantastic. Typically after the flash animation, after this animation, your opponent can jump, but if they were holding faultless defense, they can't. This is a really important detail, which is likely to happen, to be honest, given that you might be able to overwhelm them with stuff like that, right? Like you might be able to just keep putting minions over here, so they might have to worry and then start faultless defending, and when they do, you just go for the grab and you get mad damage. So it is really good in this regard. Now it is your only defensive option as far as invincibility goes. No other attack Jaco have any sort of invincibility, so it is your wake up option. I'm sorry. And again, it's not the best because the range isn't great on it. It's not terrible for a grab, but for a wake up invincible reversal, the range isn't that great, right? It could be a lot better, but it's still alright. And then we have the power up supers. Obviously the medium version is the shield one, the heavy version is the one that will make the body bleeds. Again, the important detail to know here is that if you cancel out of a heavy slash normal into them, you are plus on block and you get to keep your turn. So ideally you want to do something like that. So let's say that we got a knockdown like that, right? And then I'm gonna use this guy to like keep the turn going, right? This is pretty much how you wanna do it. If the opponent happened to block or got hit, you can go for the damage and go for the slash or the heavy slash follow up, which will make you like pressure a lot scarier. Because it's kind of fucked up, to be honest. Like if she is so she's gonna try to block everything, right? Like this is honestly terrifying, right? Like she can't really escape this, and the bar is going massively quick, right? So it is pretty fucked up, but I love personally to go for the shield more, because even after I get to open them up, because they might block everything, so you then go for the throw, and you kinda might have lost that situation. But if you have the shield version, the shield is still difficult to deal with, and in my experience, and this is something I'm still working on, the explosion work a lot better with the shield, right? Because they can't get rid of it now, so that makes it a little bit better. But yeah, that is pretty much it for Jack. Certainly a fun character. In my opinion, don't waste your meter so much on Roman cancel combos. I would save my meter for the super, and I would save my meter for yellow RCs, because her defensive options are not that great. So in my opinion, save your meter for these instead of wasting it on red RCs or purple RCs for combo extension. If you have enjoyed this video, please leave a like or a comment, it helps the channel so much. I will be leaving a link to the Patreon page and the Discord server page in the description below. Thank you very much for watching and stay safe.
Like popcorn. Can you hear the bells ding dong? This is it, this is it. If I could just see your heart, how small the world. It's not that I don't want to know. just want to feel like that every day. Piping hot, popping like popcorn. It's all mine. Can you hear the bells ding dong? Up every last one. This is it, this is it. Oh, let's not pretend I don't hear me. Try to move on without looking back, 'cause I realize it. Perfection can't please me. Piping hot, popping like popcorn. It's all mine. Can you hear the bells ding dong? This is it, this is it. If I could just see your heart, how small the world. It's not that I don't want to know. Walking and stopping half of me, and I guess so. What can I say? How many miles is life? Grab lots of snacks and wear new shoes. How far can I go? I just want to feel like that every day. Piping hot, popping like popcorn. It's all mine. Can you hear the bells ding dong? Up every last one. This is it, this is it. Oh, let's not pretend I don't hear me. Try to move on without looking back, 'cause I realize it. just want to feel like that.